If you're searching for golf access homes in Cape Coral, the Country Club neighborhood is one of the most overlooked opportunities in the entire city. Mature streets, convenient location, and golf access canals that can get you out to the Clusatchie River in as little as 14 minutes. But before you fall in love with a home here, there are 3 things every boater buyer needs to understand: distance to open water, bridge height, and flood zones. Because in the Country Club neighborhood, 2 homes on the same street can have completely different answers to all 3 of those questions. I'm Barry Cessna, your Cape Coral waterfront realtor. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the Country Club canal system, show you exactly how far each canal is from open water, what bridge heights you're working with, and which flood zones you need to be aware of before you make an offer. All right, let's jump into the map. I'm going to show you everything you won't find anywhere else.
Hey guys, welcome aboard. I'm Barry Cessna, your Cape Coral waterfront realtor. Today we've got a lot of great information to cover on the Country Club neighborhood of Cape Coral. We're going to discuss time to open water, bridge heights, flood zones, all the great things that you need to know if you're considering buying a home in the Country Club area of Cape Coral. Now, many of you are watching this video up north. Maybe you've never heard of Cape Coral before. So where exactly is Cape Coral? Cape Coral is located in southwest Florida. There's 2 main airports that connect to Cape Coral. One's going to be RSW. They're in Fort Myers, and then you also have the Punta Gorda Airport in just a bit north of Fort Myers, which have easy access to Cape Coral. So where exactly is Cape Coral? We're going to zoom in right now. Cape Coral is located on the southwest coast of Florida. We're about 50 minutes north of Naples, about 2 hours south of Tampa, 3 hours from Orlando, and 2.5 from Miami. So it's extremely convenient no matter where you need to go, but it's a little oasis. We always joke about we have easy access to all the major cities around Florida, but when we want to get home and relax, Cape Coral is where we go home to and actually enjoy. It's actually a much more relaxed way of life than, say, living in a big city such as Miami, Tampa, or Orlando. So as you can see, Cape Coral is here. We are a suburb of Fort Myers. We're separated by the Clusatchie River to the east and then Matlacha Pass to the west. We have a large strand of mangroves that go along the western side of Cape Coral, which really help out with potential flood risk. They can block that water and really help out that way. So we are protected in that sense. But today we're going to focus on the Country Club neighborhood. Now the Country Club neighborhood is going to be located right here. We have at the bottom, we have Cape Coral Parkway. On the western side, we have Santa Barbara. And then on the eastern, what we're going to cover today is going to be the Rubicon Canal right here. This is on the eastern side of the Country Club neighborhood, and then Veterans on the north part. So, and then you have Country Club Boulevard, which comes down through here, the whole way on down, and then Wildwood and Palm Tree here are the major streets throughout the neighborhood. So let's go ahead and tour the neighborhood real quick. This was the area that I actually moved to when I first moved to Cape Coral over 8 years ago. I said I want to be somewhere that's convenient. I was still working in Fort Myers at that time, so I wanted to be able to get over to Fort Myers easily without too much effort. And I looked at this area and I found that it was very affordable for what you could get, and there were a lot of great perks. But the biggest thing was it was convenient to get over to Fort Myers, convenient to get to downtown Cape Coral, and just a lot of features and a lot of great, nice, mature neighborhoods in this area. That's why I chose the Country Club area. So let's go ahead and take a look here at the Country Club area. Let's start at the bottom. So in the bottom here, you have downtown Cape Coral. Easy access to downtown. You're going to have multiple restaurants, businesses, nightlife, things like that. Easy access right here. You just shoot down Country Club Boulevard and then right on over to 47th Terrace. I guess Country Club's over here. This is Coronado here, but you have Country Club here, down, and then the whole downtown area, which they are continuing to reinvent the area. It's a great place to go spend the evening, to have some great food as well as nightlife. And then over here, I'm going to show you have Bimini Basin just south of Cape Coral Parkway as well, where Lee Health just built a huge complex here. They have a pediatrician and multiple other offices. And then you have Bimini Bay right here, and they just built this incredible restaurant right here on the water, Bimini Bay, on Bimini Basin, where you can eat dinner and watch over the basin there. The other cool thing too is if you have a home in the Cape Coral Country Club area, you can come down the San Carlos Canal, and it's really easy access to get over here to have dinner for the evening. It would be a little bit further if you're on the Rubicon Canal, but that gives you access there. So what other things you have in Country Club area. You have the Publix right here on the corner of Santa Barbara and Cape Coral Parkway. Easy access for groceries. They're currently in the process of putting in an Aldi's over here. And then if we go to the northern part, the Country Club area is mainly residential. You have to go to the major streets to get to the businesses, but it's easy access. Up here on the corner of Veterans and Santa Barbara, you're going to have your Publix, your Target, your Lowe's. Cape Coral High School's right here. And then down here, you have another Audi, you have a Wawa's gas station, and you have multiple restaurants and businesses here as well. And then, like I said earlier, easy access over to Fort Myers by Veterans Parkway, going across the Midpoint Bridge here. And then, or if you're down on the southern part of the Country Club neighborhood, you're going to take Cape Coral Parkway just across the bridge there. That's going to be the Cape Coral Bridge. And then we're just past the 4th of July, and they just put in a 250-foot flagpole right here, with an American flag, making it the tallest flag in all of Florida. And it's absolutely incredible. When you drive across the bridge coming in from Fort Myers Beach, you see that flag from a long ways away. It's a really cool thing. It really makes you feel good about yourself coming into Cape Coral. So something to look out for now, but that was just put in July 4th, 2026 for our 250th birthday for America. All right, let's jump in a little bit further. We're going to shoot up, and you may notice this huge green area right here. Well, this is the former Cape Coral Country Club, the golf and tennis club. They used to have it here. It was built back in the 60s. It was an incredible place to go and play golf. However, when 2006 rolled around, it went defunct. It closed down in 2006, and it changed hands. And then in 2024, the city of Cape Coral actually purchased the land for just over $10 million. As we speak right now, it's slated to become a park. Now, that's how it's zoned currently. Now, that could change, but at the moment, it looks like we're going to have a park in here, which is just an absolutely amazing green space to be able to go in and put some great things in there for the city of Cape Coral. So I'm expecting that to happen. We will see how the future plays out. But right now, it's just a great green space right in the middle of the city with a ton of opportunity there. So looking forward to Cape Coral doing some great things with that space. Now, if you own a home here on the area, I believe that'll definitely increase your values if it does turn into a park. Right now, you get some great green space views. It's a really nice area there. You do have some wildlife on the golf course or the defunct golf course, but it's a really peaceful area right now. And so as we go a little further north, you do have Jason Verdeau Park right here, which is a little baseball park for Little League, things like that, softball. And then you have your Circle K gas station here. And then not to mention that you do have up and down Santa Barbara, as well as Del Prado, multiple restaurants and businesses. So we're extremely convenient area, but it's tucked back in so you don't feel like you're in a huge city. It's tucked back in residential areas. All right, let's jump into the distance to open water, because that's what's important right now. We want to know how long it's going to take you to get to open water. So let's go ahead and pull up that screen. All right, here we go. So the distance to open water, there's two main areas that you have to be aware of. You're either going to be along the San Carlos Canal. Now, if you're on the San Carlos Canal, you're going to come on down. Here's the country club area. You're going to come on down here, and you're going to exit right here into the Clusatchie River, into Red Point Cove. So if you're going to come down this way, it's a very easy, accessible traverse down that way. Now, one of the things that you have to keep in mind is all the canals that are going to be in the country club neighborhood are going to be indirect access, meaning they're not going to, direct access is no bridge. That means for sailboats. Indirect access means you have to go under a bridge. So you are limited to the height of the bridge. So let's jump into that as well. Let's go here. So first up, we're going to look at the San Carlos Canal at the very bottom of the country club neighborhood. And you're looking at about 1.4 miles, about 14 minutes to get on down to the open water to the Clusatchie River. So you're going to head underneath the bridge. And it's really a nice traverse down through this area here. And you're going to come right on down and exit right here. And this is the yacht club neighborhood over here. Here's the yacht club right here, which We're expecting to have that completed here in the next couple of years, but there's been some controversy there as far as getting that done. It was damaged heavily during Hurricane Ian back in 2022, and we're still waiting for that to be redone. We do currently have the beach open, so you can go and sit on the beach. This is Cape Coral's beach right here. Read a book. It's a beautiful place to be, and you can actually swim in the river. However, as far as the other amenities, such as the swimming pool, the marina, the pier, it still has not been rebuilt. And we do have plans. It's expected to be done and started here soon. But at the moment, we are not done yet. All right, let's move on up. So distance to open water, about 14 minutes. That's about the closest you're going to be here on the San Carlos Canal system. Now, this canal system is going to be any house that's going to be west of Country Club Boulevard. So if you're west of Country Club Boulevard and you're east of Santa Barbara, this is where you're going to have to exit. We jump up here a little bit further, and we have the Trojan Canal. It's about 2.2 miles, about 22 minutes from this point over here at Santa Barbara. Now, let's jump up a little bit further. Up here, we have the Princeton Canal. Now, from here, you're looking at about 2.7 miles and about 28 minutes. Now, we talked about the Pelican neighborhood, and this is where a lot of the folks in the Pelican neighborhood have to exit, is through, this is the Lotus Canal here. They have to come up the Lotus Canal or down the Lotus Canal, and then underneath the bridge here at Santa Barbara, into the Princeton Canal, and then on out from there. So 28 minutes from this spot right here on the Princeton Canal. If we move a little bit further up into San Carlos Basin, that's this big area right here. It's about 3.3 miles, 33 minutes to get down to the Caloosahatchee River. One of the things that I will point out is check out these incredible views. Anytime that you have views like this, where it's not just your standard canal, but you have extra views, maybe you're on an intersecting canal, such as right here, or you just get the basin view, you're going to pay a premium for those homes because they come with that extra view. If you're facing west, you're going to get those incredible sunset views, so that's something to keep in mind as well. Now, this neighborhood here, the Country Club neighborhood, was built up back in the late 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. So there are some older homes in this neighborhood. They're not all built like in the 60s or the 70s. You see a lot of newer things in the 80s, the 90s, and even the early 2000s. However, this neighborhood's not as new as, say, Southwest Cape Coral or Northwest Cape Coral. So you're going to find better value here. However, the homes are not going to be as big typically. But just a really great, convenient area. Nice value. But the homes here are typically going to be built in the 80s, 90s, or early 2000s. Back to the water. So anytime you have a basin view, you're going to pay a premium for that. Anytime you're on an intersecting canal, such as these, where you have two canals coming together, you have extra seawall frontage, which you're going to pay a premium for that. Now, the typical canal width is going to be about 80 feet across here in Cape Coral, and you're going to have typically about 80 foot of frontage based on your 0.23 acre lot, which is your typical lot here in Cape Coral. So anytime you get more than that, you're typically going to pay that premium, but the views are incredible, and it's certainly worth it if your budget can afford something like that. All right, as we move on up into the Country Club neighborhood, we're going to wrap right around here. We're going to go back here to the Anchor Canal, and this one's at 5 miles, about 50 minutes. So this is about one of the furthest away canals that you're going to be here in the Country Club neighborhood to get you down to the Caloosahatchee River. It's going to be about 50 minutes and at idle speed. Now, when I talk about the time to get there, you have to understand in Cape Coral, every canal is a no-wake idle speed canal, meaning you're pretty much going to be going at about 5 to 7 miles per hour. So you have to keep that in mind when you're going out of this canal systems, that it's absolutely, you're not going to be going full throttle through the canals. Here's another beautiful area up here around Kamal Parkway. You just have some great water views from these homes here. And then San Carlos Canal and Veterans. This is Veterans Memorial Parkway right here. You're looking at about 4.7 miles or 47 minutes. So what type of boat can you dock back here? You have the ability to dock many types of boats. And we'll get into bridge height here in just a few minutes. But right now, you can see what we're doing back here. You have one bridge going out of here, And you're parking some pretty decent sized boats. I mean, this is easily a 30-foot here. This lot size here is going to be 80 feet across. That's how much frontage they have. And as you can see, the size of the boats sitting there, they're not small. So they are able to traverse and get out. But we're going to go over bridge heights here in just a moment. So if you're west of Country Club Boulevard, you're going to be traversing out the San Carlos Canal. Now let's jump over to the Rubicon Canal. The Rubicon Canal, at the very southern part of it, we do not have a bridge that goes under Cape Coral Parkway. See, over here on the San Carlos, there's a bridge. So 14 minutes, you're out to the river. However, over here, there is not a bridge. You have to go north before you can get to the river. So we're at the Rubicon Canal. This is where the Rubicon Canal starts at. It's 2.4 miles, 24 minutes to get out to the Caloosahatchee River. Now, the Rubicon Canal and the San Carlos Canal are two of the largest, longest canals in the city of Cape Coral. They're absolutely beautiful, and in many areas they're quite wide. The Rubicon Canal is actually about 200 feet across here for quite a stretch. So if you get a home on the Rubicon Canal here in this area, you get some incredible views for the sunrise, because most of these are going to face southeast. We're not going to cover the homes off of Coronado over here. We're only going to cover the homes to the west of the Rubicon Canal. Now you can go in, and I'm going to put together that video here in the next couple of weeks. But right now, we're going to look at these homes here, just off the golf course. Rubicon Canal, south 2.4 miles, about 24 minutes to open water. How are you going to get to open water? You're going to come up the canal system, up here to Plato Canal, and then you're going to do that directly out to the open water of the Caloosahatchee River. Now, even though you're able to get out to the Caloosahatchee River a little quicker than, say, some of the canal homes off of the San Carlos Canal, you still have to keep into account that you have to go out to the Caloosahatchee River and then down the river a little ways just to get to Redfish Cove right here, which that'll eventually lead you out to Sanibel Causeway and then Fort Myers Beach if you want to go to Fort Myers Beach, or a day of island hopping. You can do some back bay fishing, some incredible stuff. But just keep in mind that even though you're in southeast Cape Coral and you're off the Rubicon, yes, you can get out to the river a little quicker than, say, the Country Club San Carlos. It still might take you longer because you do have a little bit further traverse on the river, even though you can go at full throttle in a lot of that area on the river right here. So let's jump into the Plato Canal, which is going to be right here, 1.2 miles, about 12 minutes from the Rubicon out to the Caloosahatchee River. If we go up a little bit further, we have the Cronin Canal, and it's about 2.5 miles, 25 minutes, and you're just going to go out here and down as well to the Plato Canal. The next one up, we have Antigua Canal, 2.2 miles, 22 minutes. That's going to get you out to the Caloosahatchee River. Something I want to point out is Antigua Canal is 2.2 miles, 22 minutes. You go directly across the street. Look at these guys. They're neighbors. They're looking at each other. But 22 minutes to the river versus 42 minutes off the Santa Fe Canal over to the San Carlos Canal. So something to keep in mind. When you're choosing neighborhoods, even though one home might be right across the neighborhood or right across the street from another home, it still may take you quite a bit longer to get out to open water. Definitely need to have an experienced real estate agent that understands the canal system and understands the direction and what you need to do in order to get to the open water. All right, let's go ahead and continue on the Rubicon Canal here. Next up, we're going to have Riverhead Canal South. And this one's, you're going to actually traverse through here. This one's going to be 2.75 miles and 27 minutes. So you're going to traverse here, but instead of going south, you're going to go north because we actually have a bridge here that goes under Del Prado and takes you straight on out to the Caloosahatchee. So about 27 minutes to get out to the river from here. And straight on out. And then we have the Rubicon Canal here at Veterans. It stretches up to Veterans. From this basin here, you're looking at about 2.1 miles, 21 minutes to get out to the river. Just to give you an idea, the Rubicon Canal actually stretches the whole way up here, almost to Vizcaya, and it ends here at Del Prado. So it's a large canal system. We're going to get into these canals here in another video, but right now we're doing the country club neighborhood, and that's as high as we're going to go is Veterans. So right here, you can cross under the bridge and still be in Saltwater Canal. Over here, off of the San Carlos Canal, you are not able to cross under the bridge. So all these homes here are going to be freshwater. Now, one of the things that people get hung up on is they see the bridge and they think, oh, I can just cross under the bridge. But how do you tell? How do you know? My tip to you is if you look at the neighborhoods and you look at the type of boats they have docked out back, you're going to be able to find out real quick if it's going to be a saltwater canal neighborhood or a freshwater canal neighborhood. Let's zoom in here. Check this out. So this is freshwater, right? See any big boats back here? Not really. You got some nice docks here, and you got a little playground out here, probably some kayaks, but I don't see any big boats. Here's a little boat. Sometimes people put catamarans back here. They can go around the canal system on their catamaran, watch the sunset, do a little bit of fishing in the freshwater, find some bass or bluegill. But as far as going out to open water, you're not able to do that. So you're not going to see any of those big boats back here on the freshwater canals. All right, let's cross over and go into the Gulf access canals. Look at this. So now all of a sudden you have larger boats, canopies, but you have several boats docked in the back. You're going to see boat lifts, you're going to see canopies, you're going to see typically larger docks, and that's going to be your sign that this is a saltwater canal neighborhood. And that's going to work anywhere in Cape Coral. So just be aware of that, that's your sign. You look on a map and go ahead on in. So what are we looking at here? Salt water, right? This is the Rubicon Canal. Same thing if you go north. Salt water. Let's switch over. Let's cross over Country Club Boulevard here and Academy. And what do we got here? Also, you get the lily pads too in the freshwater canal. Okay, let's jump back. So that gives you distance to open water from the country club neighborhood. You're looking at anywhere from 50 miles if you're east of Santa Barbara and west of Country Club here in the northern part near Veterans. Now, if you're over in the Rubicon Canal, which is east of Country Club Boulevard, you're going to be about 25 minutes or less. So that gives you a pretty good idea for that area. Oftentimes you get different types of neighborhoods. So find the neighborhood that's best for you and then start working on the distance to open water as well. And then once those come together, then you can really find a great home with your budget. And we can go through that. Now let's jump into bridge. Next up, we're going to look at bridge heights. Now these bridge heights are measured at mean high water. Now some days on a big tide, you may get a little bit higher than this, so keep that in mind. But these are going to be measured at mean high water. So let's go ahead and dive right in. First up, we got the San Carlos Bridge. That's going to be the one heading down the very south part of the San Carlos Canal at the southern part of the Country Club neighborhood. Now you're going to go into the bridge here at Cape Coral Parkway, and then you're going to head straight on south to the Caloosahatchee River. So that one is at 9 feet 2 inches. Next up, we have the Princeton Canal, and the bridge that goes over that canal at Santa Barbara is going to be 9 feet 3 inches. Now, something to keep in mind is 9 feet 3 inches is a little bit higher than 9 feet 2 inches. However, at the end of the day, your goal is to get to the Caloosahatchee River, so you need to make sure that you're able to get under the lowest bridge. So 9 feet 2 inches is what you're looking at there. It's really important to know bridge height and whether you can park your sailboat, your catamaran, your center console, your bow rider, deck boat. A lot of people like the pontoons or the tritoons here in the Cape Coral area. So you need to understand what type of boat you want and what you're going to be able to get out. I see a lot of people able to 26 foot, 27 foot, 28 foot center consoles back here behind the bridges and able to get out with no problem. Just need to understand how high your T-top is and what it is that you need to do to get through the bridge before buying, because it would be very unfortunate for you to buy a home that you're not able to use your boat and be able to dock it in your backyard. So we have that bridge there, and then let's move on up. We do not have any other bridges between the Country Club and Santa Barbara. So even if you're up here close to Veterans and you're coming on out, the only bridge you need to concern yourself with is going to be this one down here at Cape Coral Parkway, which is the San Carlos Canal bridge there at 9 feet 2 inches. Now let's jump over to the Rubicon Canal. If you're staying here, or if you're living here along the Rubicon Canal, which is just an absolutely beautiful canal, you have one bridge to go under, and that's going to be here on the Plato Canal going over or going under Del Prado Boulevard. Now this one's going to be 9 feet, so a little bit lower, but you have 9 feet to get under before you go out to the Caloosahatchee River. Now, all the canals that are in the country club neighborhood are going to be indirect. Now, a direct access canal is going to be one that has 0 bridges, like these ones right here. An indirect canal is going to have at least 1 bridge to get you to the open water. Now, as you can see, a lot of these homes along the Caloosahatchee River have larger boats docked out in front because there aren't the restrictions of, say, a bridge or things like that. You also see a lot of sailboats throughout these neighborhoods because there are not restrictions. Now, and bigger cabin cruisers, things like that. However, the thing to understand and to consider is you do pay a premium for these. So if you're not going to have a bigger boat, you really don't need to be on a direct access canal. You can save yourself a lot of money. But if you say, absolutely, Barry, I want to be on a direct access, then understand you're going to pay a little more. It's not terribly a lot more, but you are going to pay a little more because typically you're a little bit closer to the open water, but also you do not have any bridges to traverse. So let's jump back here to the country club neighborhood. So this one right here is at 9 feet. Now the great thing about this canal system is you have a few bridges that you can actually go out or under to get out of the canal system off of the Rubicon. As we go up here a little bit further north off the Lido Canal, this one is actually 11 feet 2 inches. So even if you do have a boat down here, or if you have a home down here, you're able to dock a bigger boat back here or down here because you do have the option of going up here to the Lido Canal. Understand it's going to take you a little bit longer to get up there and out to the river, but you do have that option. Now, if your boat is able to go under the Plato Canal at 9 feet, then you have extremely easy access right on out to the river from the southern part of the Rubicon Canal. Other bridges that we have up here are going to be the Rubicon Canal. We have this one here. It's going to be at 10 feet 7 inches off of Southeast 26th Terrace. And then you have a bridge up here underneath Veterans, which is about 13 feet 5 inches. So a lot of space to get under that one. However, it really doesn't matter because you still have to be able to get under this one at 10 feet 7 and then this one at 11 feet 2 inches. So the key to understand is to know what the lowest bridge is in order to get out to the open water, because that's the one that you need to keep in mind. All right, that went over this section of the bridges. Now let's jump into flood zones, because a lot of the areas here in the country club area are not in flood zones, or what they call flood zone X500. So let's talk about what that means. All right, as you can see here, we have the Cape Coral Peninsula. Now, all the pinkish color here is going to be flood zone AE, as designated by FEMA. Now that means there's a 1 in 100 year chance that there's going to be a substantial flooding event. So once every 100 years, there's that potential. It's not 1% per se, but that's kind of the idea. Now, as we go in here, we're going to zoom in. The yellow is going to be X500, which means there's a 1 in every 500 years, there's going to be a substantial flooding event. And then you have zone X, which is pretty much completely out of the flood zone, extremely minimal. Now, in AE, you're typically required by your lender, your mortgage company, to carry flood insurance. If you're in X500 or X, you're typically not required to. Now, should you have insurance, flood insurance, if you are in one of the X flood zones, it's definitely up to you. It is recommended. Typically, it's going to be at a much lower price because your chances or your risk of being flooded are fairly minimal. Now, let's jump into the country club neighborhood. We have Santa Barbara right here. And then we have over here Country Club. So we're going to look at this area here. Now, as you can see, the southern part, these neighborhoods here are all in pink. So you would definitely, this is zone AE, elevation is 8 feet. Now, typically, if you're going to have a new home being built in this area, it needs to be built at least 9 feet. That's the base flood elevation is 8 feet. So zone AE, as you can see, all the homes here along Santa Barbara, and then we come over here along Palm Tree, all are going to require flood insurance if you have a loan. If we go over here to Cape Coral Park, or I'm sorry, if you go over here to Country Club, you're going to zoom in here and you actually see the yellow show up, the X500. These homes are built at a higher elevation and they're not typically going to require flood insurance. Now, I'm not an insurance agent, so that's something we would run through the insurance agent prior to you purchasing the home. The way this works is we get a home under contract, you find the one that you like, and I can pretty much point you in the area depending on your risk tolerance and how much money you want to spend for that. And then once we find those houses that we think are within your budget and within your risk tolerance, then we put in an offer. Once we put in the offer, we have a due diligence time period. Usually it's 10 days to 14 days. During that time, we're going to have the home inspected. We're going to call the insurance company and we're going to get some good quotes for you. If you find out that it's not quite what you wanted, it's astronomical, it's not really where you're at, then at that point, you can certainly get out of the home and get your escrow money back, because we have a due diligence period, which means we have time to do all the homework on the property once our offer is accepted. Now, one of the things also I want to bring up is when you're talking about flood insurance, a lot of it is transferable, meaning the person that has the flood insurance now on the house, if they've had it for many years, maybe they have a really good rate, they can actually transfer that to the new buyer, which will typically save you a lot of money than if you just had to go get a new policy yourself. So oftentimes on homes that are in flood zones that are required to have flood insurance, we're going to talk to the seller and see if they have that transferable flood policy where you can get that lower rate. If not, then obviously we're going to have to go and get a new policy, which can have higher rates. Now, just to give you an idea of what it would cost you here in the city of Cape Coral, you're looking anywhere from probably about $1,200 a year up to several thousand a year, just depending on the home. A lot of these homes in the country club area, and since I lived in the country club area before, I believe I was paying about $1,300 a year for flood insurance on my home, but I was just on the border between AE and X500. So it's going to vary depending on the elevation, the age of the house, a whole lot of things that happen there that we need to make sure. But I would figure anywhere from $1,200 to $2,200 for your flood insurance is about standard. It can go up quite a bit higher than that, just depending on the property. Now, as we move north on the country club area, we see a lot of yellow here. So even though you're here right on the water, you still, all the house is in the yellow, which is X500, which typically means you would not be required to have flood insurance, which is a substantial savings if you choose not to have it. Now, again, that's a preference for you, and if you do want to have it, you're welcome to it, and it's definitely going to be at a much lower price if you're in X500. And then as we go a little bit further north, you see this whole area right here. All these homes are going to be in X500. However, the homes across the canal are going to be in AE. So for some reason, this one was not, when the city was developed, this little peninsula here was not developed or not brought up as high as, say, this peninsula here. Because how they did it is they dredged the canals and they took all that land and put them right up on top to form the land and to raise the elevation. So what you need to understand for this whole area here is that yes, there is AE, X, and X500. However, you do need to understand that you can find a home that's in X500 in the country club neighborhood. One of the things that I thought is interesting, if you go over here, check this out. We actually have homes in X. If there's not a color here, that's X. The chances of a flooding event in these homes here is extremely unlikely. So people say in their mind, they're thinking, if I'm going to be on a Gulf access canal, I'm automatically going to be in a flood zone, or I'm automatically going to need to buy flood insurance. And that's just not the case. That's not true. There are plenty of homes that are in flood zone X or X500 that do not require flood insurance. However, AE does require flood insurance. But it's extremely important to have a real estate agent that understands the market, that understands flood zones, bridge heights, that understands distance to open water, because that's going to make your life a lot easier when you're buying a home or even selling a home here in Cape Coral. So if you are thinking about buying, selling, investing, relocating, or retiring here in Cape Coral, go ahead and click the link. There's a QR code right there, or you can text the word Cape to me and we'll get that call set up. But I do a 20 to 30 minute strategy call where we're going to chat about your goals, your dreams, what your budget is, what area of Cape Coral you want to be in. Or if you don't even know what area you want to be in, we can talk about that and talk about the pros and the cons of the different areas and find the best area for you within your budget. Just to give you an idea, we're seeing a lot of homes in the country club area that are selling in the $600,000 range, $700,000 range. These are golf access homes, beautiful homes, ready to go, that you can move right in and start living that waterfront lifestyle. Now, typically they're going to be a little bit smaller than ones you might find in Southwest, maybe not as new as what you'd find in Northwest, but if you want a nice home that you can move right into and have a boat docked out back so you can take those sunset cruises, or maybe go on down to a local restaurant, or maybe you want to go out for a day of island hopping, we have those opportunities here in the Cape Coral area in the 600 to 700. There's even homes in the $500,000 range. However, they do require a little extra work and elbow grease if you're looking for something like that. So go ahead and reach out to me. Love to chat with you. Love to put together a strategy so you can be living your best life here in Cape Coral. Have a great day.